Hello everyone, I'm Heather and this is Heather Travels. Thank you for joining me today for this video. I got a question recently from a couple of my viewers that was very interesting and a very good question, but it has a very complicated answer. And their question was, when everything opens up again or reopens, or if everything was to reopen, would I travel? Like me personally. There's a lot of factors that go into how I'm going to answer that question. And so I'm going to talk about that in today's video. First of all, I would like to refer you back to a couple of previous videos that I made. In March, I made what turned out to be quite a popular video, and I will link it right up here. And it was, when will we travel again? And I made a prediction in that video. And really what my prediction was, because obviously there are people who are still traveling about to some extent. But what my prediction was in that video was really more, when will traveling get back to, at least for the most part, what it was before everything happened. And I predicted in that video, if you want to watch it, that it would be the latter half of 2021. Now, I think in some respects, it might even be longer than that before some things, get up to their full speed completely. Analysts and things have predicted that it could be 2, 3 or more years before, say, like Disney and the airlines and cruise lines get back to where they were before the pandemic. I still stick to that to some degree because I don't think there will be the full availability of travel for everyone, or that everyone will feel comfortable doing the same type of traveling that they did before until the second half of next year, until 2021. So that's one thing to consider. Okay, the second video that I made that I want to refer you back to, I made in April, about 1 month later, and I will link it right up here. And that was where I talked about 7 different obstacles that are preventing people from traveling as of that day that I made that video in April. And I'm going to go through those 7 obstacles in this video one at a time and talk to you about how they affect me personally right now at the end of June. So, and like looking through the summer. The first one of those that I talked about in that video was the virus itself. Okay, nothing has changed with the virus itself. There's still no real known effective treatment or cure. There's still no vaccine. Lots of rumor, lots of talk about when there might be treatments and cures, when there might be a vaccine, but right now, that's all it is. It's all talk. The scientists are working as hard and as fast as they can, but we still don't know when there's going to be a vaccine. Some people say fall, some people say January, some people say a year, some people say 10 years. So we just don't know. And the virus is just as bad as it was before, if not more so. I've seen so much data and information. If you're not looking at that, by the way, if you're not looking at real actual data and numbers, and you've kind of got your head in the sand, don't do that, because it really is bad. The epicenter now has moved to like Central and South America. Central and South American countries are struggling desperately with this, and there's a lot of people that are getting sick and dying there that don't have access to anything close to the kind of medical care that we would have in North America, Europe, or Asia. I'm not foolish enough to believe that I'm any less at risk now than I was 3 months ago. Nothing in that regard has changed. Okay, I want to put forth a big factor for me and my family. There are very specific reasons that I don't want me or any of my 3 kids, my parents too, and anybody really, but for me personally, there are some very specific health reasons that I do not want us to get this virus, to contract it. I want to minimize our risk of getting it as much as humanly possible. If you leave your house, you're not risk-free. There's no way to be completely risk-free if you go out at all. There just isn't. And I'm well aware of that. So for me personally, I happen to have a congenital heart defect. They've learned a lot about the virus, that it has a lot to do with the circulatory system and blood vessels and things like that, more than they expected to see in something that's transmitted through respiratory droplets. And that concerns me greatly because of my heart condition. My oldest son has asthma. My youngest son has very severe environmental allergies, and and all of us have had like kind of hypersensitive immune systems, eczema, things like that, and allergies. And so because of those things, I am very nervous about how our bodies would react to getting this virus, because in a lot of the cases of younger, healthier people that they've seen get really, really sick or die, it's been because their immune system response to the virus has almost gone overboard and their body just can't handle it. So that does concern me. The one person in our family who I'm probably least concerned about if she did get sick would be Megan. She's probably the most physically healthy of the four of us. But overall, I mean, we don't even want to have to endure that test. If you haven't seen the one, I don't know what's going on with the ones where it looks like they're swabbing people's mouths, but those I don't think are actually accurate. They say that the only test that's actually completely accurate is the nasal swab that goes all the way up and down the back of your nose and all the way back down your throat. And when I saw somebody getting that and saw how far that swab went, I just freaked out. I don't even want to have to endure that. So it is our goal as a family not to catch the virus. So in everything I talk about today, we really, really, really want to avoid catching it. That's the goal. It's not a matter of like, we're worried about, oh, will I recover or not? I don't even want to get to that point where that's even something I'm thinking about. I don't want to catch it. I don't want to catch it. I don't want my kids to catch it. So the virus is definitely a big factor. Okay. The number 2 obstacle to traveling in that video that I talked about was the legal restrictions. What I meant by that was like borders being closed, travel restrictions, states requiring you to quarantine for 14 days, country borders being closed, things like that. Lots of those are still in place. You can't get into Canada, by land or sea. You can't go into Mexico. You can't go to Europe from the United States. You can't come back here. Europeans can't come here. The cruise ships are still under a CDC no sail order. There's many states where they are requiring you to quarantine for 14 days, either everybody or if you're from certain other states. I put a map together trying to figure out if we could do some kind of a road trip this summer. And I marked the states that had really uncontrolled spread of the virus with a star. And then I marked the states that had required some kind of quarantine for out-of-state visitors with a Q. And oh my gosh, it gave me a headache. Like when I saw it all laid out, like trying to get from place to place was a nightmare. It was like a puzzle or a really hard math problem, because there's so many different varied restrictions. But the question that my viewers had asked me, two people had asked me, was if those restrictions were taken away, would I travel? So let's just pretend, for the sake of this video, that those restrictions are gone. Number 3 problem, everything's closed. Lots of stuff is still closed. But I've been checking periodically to see what's been opening. So like, for example, Shanghai Disneyland reopened. A lot of the Florida theme parks have reopened. SeaWorld reopened. Busch Gardens reopened. Legoland reopened. Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure reopened just recently, like within the last week or so of my filming this. Walt Disney World in California is scheduled to reopen in a couple stages, July 11th, July 15th. Disneyland, or did I say Florida? Sorry. Disneyland in California is scheduled to open July 17th on the 65th anniversary to the day of when it originally opened in 1955. So that's kind of cool. And Universal Hollywood hasn't opened yet, but I haven't heard if they've announced when they're going to. Some of the more regional parts, like Busch Gardens in Williamsburg, has no scheduled opening date at this time. Dollywood just reopened. Hershey Park is opening July 5th, I think. Kings Island is opening in July. Cedar Point has like a phased reopening scheduled with just pass holders and people staying in their on-site hotels. Haven't seen anything about Valley Fair yet. So, as far as like theme parks and things, that's kind of where we're at. It's kind of all over the place. I did see that Colonial Williamsburg has reopened, but like as far as things that are inside, museums and stuff, a lot of that, any kind of entertainment venue. Movie theaters are all still closed. Live theater locations are all still closed. Those might be closed for a long time. So there's still a lot of stuff closed. So because of that, that definitely affects my choices personally as to where I would go, because there's some things, well, why would I go all that way if one of the things I wanted to do when I was there isn't going to be open? And I'm sure that'll be a factor for a lot of people. Okay, number 4 is the practical considerations. And in this, we talked about like having to wear masks, the sanitation and cleanliness stuff. Now, thankfully, because some of those places have reopened, like Universal Studios, for example, we've actually gotten to see in action lots of other vloggers, Tim Tracker, a couple other people, Theme Park Express, have gone to the theme parks and filmed and shown us what it's like. Okay, I have 3 things to say about that. One is it definitely varies from park to park in how well they're implementing these things. I mean, overall, all of the parks that I've seen are doing kind of the same stuff. You know, they're requiring masks, they're doing temperature checks, they're putting out lots of social distancing markers. You know, there's no shows, or the shows are really limited. They've increased cleaning everywhere. They have increased hand washing and hand sanitization stations everywhere. They have little rest areas where you can take a break and sit down and take your mask off for a while. So that kind of stuff is kind of consistent in every place I've seen. What is not consistent is the enforcement of these policies and procedures that they've put into place is widely varied, and people's behavior is very concerning. I have seen videos where the people who were filming the video have literally left after a short time because they did not feel safe or comfortable in the place, because so many members of the public are not wearing their masks, or they're not wearing their mask properly. They've got it pulled down so it's not covering their nose, or they've got it pulled down on their neck. A couple I've seen that, like whole families, no mask at all, no mask in sight. I know Tony from La Lido Loca, they went to Kennedy Space Center to see the SpaceX launch. And they said, like, going through security, everything was okay, cool. But as soon as they got past security, they saw all sorts of people taking off their masks. And a security guard would come up and say, you got to put your mask back on. They'd put it back on while the security guard was standing there. As soon as the security guy walked away, they took it off again. So if you don't know, and I'm concerned that people's mentality with the mask thing is twofold. One, it's that very stubborn American me-centric mentality of, you're not going to tell me what to do. Don't get me started, okay? The second thing about that is I think people have a misunderstanding that the mask is protecting them. And they're thinking, well, I don't care if I get sick, or I'm not going to get sick, or I've had it already, or whatever. And so they think they don't need to wear the mask because they're not worried about it. But that's not how it works. Your wearing the mask doesn't protect you. It protects everybody around you. It's keeping your respiratory droplets by you and not around to everyone else. If we all wore masks, even if 80% of the people wore masks, the virus would disappear because it has no place to go. And I also saw that up to 80% of the people that are spreading the virus are asymptomatic. So you can have the virus and be spreading it to people just by breathing or talking and have no idea that you're doing it if you're not wearing a mask. So if everybody would just wear a mask, then the virus would go away and we can all go back to normal. That's my little public interest plug for today, okay? So I'm not concerned about me with the practical considerations. I have no problem whatsoever wearing a mask. I think the people who are whining about wearing masks, it's awful, get over yourself. It's not that uncomfortable. It's actually not uncomfortable at all. If you try a bunch of different masks and find one that you like, they're really no big deal. You almost forget you have it on. Also, people in the medical profession wear masks all day long, day after day, for their entire lives, their entire careers, and you never hear them complain. And millions of people in Asia, it's just a socially acceptable thing. Everybody's over there wearing masks all the time, even when there's not a pandemic, just to keep each other safe. And you don't hear them complaining. So I really have no tolerance for people who complain about the mask thing, because it's just foolishness to me. If you would just wear it, if everybody would just wear it, this would all be over so much faster. I don't have any problem with wearing it. My concern is about other people's behavior. So those restrictions that they put in place, as far as the businesses and the companies and the recreational locations doing their part to keep people safe, I have lots of confidence in them. I've seen businesses in my own town that are doing a fantastic job with protecting their staff and their customers. It's the people, the public, that isn't participating and isn't cooperating, and that gives me a lot of reservations in my comfort level of being able to go places. The fifth thing is financial considerations. For me personally, this is a big one. We are not in a good financial position at all because I worked in a school. The school closed. I've been filing for unemployment I filed for unemployment every week until the school year ended. So it was like 10 weeks. I haven't seen a penny. My unemployment case is still pending. It's been pending the whole 10 weeks. And when you try to call Wisconsin unemployment, you either get a busy signal or you get the little menu thing that tells you, we're very sorry, but there's too many people in the queue, and it hangs up on you. I have tried calling many, many, many times, and that's all I ever get. I can't get through. So I have no idea I don't even know if I'm going to get unemployment or not. They're still trying to determine if I qualify. So I have no idea if I'm going to get unemployment. 3 other people who have the same job as me with the same school district, one of them is still waiting. Well, hers actually got denied and she filed an appeal. And the other 2 both got unemployment. So go figure. And we all applied at the same time. So we have no idea. My son lost his job too, and he was not getting unemployment for a while, but he didn't lose his job until the end of April. And he has been getting unemployment now for a couple of weeks. So it didn't, there was a delay, but it certainly hasn't been as long as I've been waiting. In addition to that, I haven't gotten any child support in 2 years, and I probably never will. And so, my bills haven't changed, but I have no income. So the ability for us to go someplace is definitely very much infringed upon by financial problems. One thing that would really help is if you would support my channel. Please support my channel by liking this video and subscribing to my channel. Please subscribe to my channel. If you have not subscribed and you watch my videos, please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it, and that would really help support the channel. Number 6, reduce transportation options. This one's not really an issue for me right now, and I'm going to come back to why that is with the second thing that I'm going to talk about. If we travel right now, it's going to be in my personal vehicle, in my own car. So that one's not too much of an issue with me because we can't leave the country anyway. And so, I might want to go somewhere that normally I would fly to, but I'm just from a safety standpoint with the pandemic, I'm probably going to drive anyway. So, and then number 7 is fear. Here's where I'm at with fear. I find for me personally, the more knowledge I have about anything that scares me, the more comfortable I feel. And as time has passed and I have studied and read up and learned more about this virus, I feel less fearful. I still definitely don't want to get it, and I don't want my family to get it, but it helps me personally to understand things and have as much information as possible. I realize that that's not true for everyone. I realize that for many people, ignorance is bliss and they don't want to think about it, and it's easier for them to function as long as they don't have to think about that scary thing. But for me, I need to know everything. I want to know all about it. I want to study it. I want to understand. Anything in my life that scares me, if I have more information, and I think that's because of my personality type, I just feel much more secure and much more prepared and much more at ease and calmer. Oh, I understand. Oh, is that what it does? Oh, that's why that happens. When I have that information, I feel a lot better. So I'm actually less wary about traveling right now than I was like 3 months ago because I've learned so many things. Like, for example, I've learned that if everybody wore masks, transmission would be basically 0. And I've learned that the most important thing really is staying away from people. If I can maintain that more than 6 feet distance from everybody, great. If I can do that and I can just stay, we can stay isolated in our car or in our hotel room and, keep our distance from everyone, I'm not really worried at all. It's if I go somewhere that's really crowded and I have people who aren't cooperating with the policies, that's the thing that gives me pause. It's definitely still transmissible on surfaces, so you don't want to take that lightly, but they have found that that's not the primary way that the virus is transmitted. It's definitely through the air from person to person is the big one. So that really is the biggest factor. As long as we're still cleaning stuff and washing our hands, I'm not so much worried about the surface thing as much. So for me, the fear thing has definitely decreased. I'm still, very concerned, don't want to get the virus, but I feel a little bit more empowered, if you will, to deal with it effectively because I understand it better. Okay, the second thing I want to talk about is some medical experts from different like hospitals, universities in Michigan, I can't remember exactly what they were, came up with this. They came up with this risk thing for all sorts of different activities, and they gave them a scale from 1 to 10 or 0 to 10. I'm just going to pick out the travel related ones and go from highest risk to lowest risk and tell you, given where they are on this scale, would I feel comfortable doing them? Okay, first of all, I'm going to tell you that the highest risk activity on this list is bars. Going to a bar is a 9. So don't go to a bar. I'm not going to a bar. I don't drink anyway. So I'm not going to be going to a bar, so I don't have to worry about that one. The 2 lowest risk are playing tennis, which my son has done with his roommates that he lives with. They happen to have a tennis court right across from their house, from across the street. My dad usually plays in a tennis league in the summer, and after I saw this, I went, oh, and I felt a lot less worried about my dad playing tennis, but they canceled the whole season anyway. He has been golfing, and golfing is actually at a risk level 3, which I don't completely understand why golf is more risk than tennis, but anybody got a thought on that? I don't really know why that would be, especially if you're golfing alone. I don't get it, but anyway. And then the other one that's only a 1, besides playing tennis, is getting takeout from a restaurant. And I definitely think that's probably true. I do have a couple places that I do pick up takeout that it does bother me that their employees are not masked. I always wear a mask when I do pick up takeout, but they're not wearing masks. And that kind of bothers me because, when you're at the drive-thru window or they're bringing your food out to you where you're parked, they come right up to your open window and they talk to you. And, they're handing me the bag. I'm not too terribly concerned about the bag, but what I am concerned about is when they're standing there, a foot from my face and they're talking to me about what's in my bag. I guess, I don't know, hand me the bag and walk away. Don't talk to me or put a mask on. I mean, I would say about half the places I'm seeing where I pick up food, the employees are all wearing masks and half of them aren't. So there should be some consistency there, and then I think that would definitely be safer. Okay. So let's go through this from a travel-related, perspective from biggest risk. Okay, after bars, the next riskiest level of things is buffets. Well, we've talked about that, how there's not going to be any buffets at Disney World when that opens. The whole buffet thing on the cruise ship is a major topic of discussion, so we'll have to see what happens with that. So not going to go to any buffets. Okay, also sports stadiums, gyms, and amusement parks are all at a level 8. So that's pretty high. There is no sporting events going on right now, so that's not really anything to be concerned about. But amusement parks is a big one. That definitely gives me pause. There are definitely some amusement parks or theme parks that we would like to go to this year. I listed some earlier in the video. I mentioned Busch Gardens, Valley Fair, Cedar Point, Hershey Park. All of those we're interested in visiting. And they are all going to be open. Well, except Busch Gardens doesn't have a date. But, Dollywood. Do I feel comfortable going there? It does make me kind of nervous. And I guess for 2 reasons. One, which I already mentioned, which I'm definitely very concerned about the behavior of other people. In addition to not wearing the masks that, some of the other vloggers have observed that makes them very nervous. They said another problem that they're running into is other people not social distancing. You know, they come right up behind them in a line, for example, even though there's markers on the ground where you're supposed to stand 6 feet away from each other. I've seen kind of mixed things. Some people just don't say anything, but they just get upset. Other people will actually turn around and say, hey, can you back up? Because you're too close, you know, and remind them. It's always a little risky to confront someone. You know, I don't think I'd ever feel comfortable going up to somebody and saying, hey, put your mask on, you know, because we've seen that even when security tells them to put their mask on, they don't necessarily, you know, they do it and then they take it back off. So what good is that going to do? You don't want to make people mad at you in public, because that's obviously not going to be a safe situation either. What if they start yelling in your face and they're, you know, and their respiratory droplets, you know, or saying something to you, and so you don't want to be in a situation like that. So that's definitely concerning. And then the other thing about an amusement park or a theme park, I guess, that concerns me is it's a lot of high touch situations. Now, I mean, definitely they're putting hand washing stations and sanitizer everywhere, but when you're going on rides, you're touching it. You're touching the ride. You're touching the seatbelt. You're touching the lap bar. You're touching the pole on the carousel. I mean, you're touching all that stuff, and they're doing a good job of cleaning it all, but boy, they got to be cleaning constantly. And then, you know, that's just a lot of touching. And then you try not to touch your face, but boy, is that hard. So that concerns me a little bit. So I'm not sure if I'm comfortable yet going to an amusement park. I really have hesitancy about that one. Okay, public pools are a 7. Probably not going to go in a public pool. The only way I could see that we would go into a pool is if it was like at a very off time of day, like early in the morning or late at night, and nobody else is in it. I definitely don't think I would go into an indoor pool with, you know, even if there's just one other family in there. Indoor hotel pools are small, you know, so I mean, maybe if it was a really big pool and it's outside and it's basically empty, would I feel comfortable doing that? I'm not going to be going to a casino. Okay, next risk level is at a 6 is an indoor eating at a restaurant. Have no intention of doing this. I will not be doing that. So we will not be eating inside in a restaurant. When we've gone on our little, like when we went to our last state park getaway, which was 3 hours in the car there and back, we drove through and we ate in the car. So we will either do that if we travel. We'll either eat in the car as we're driving. We will park and eat in the car. I have seen a lot of people doing that even around here. Or we will take the food somewhere, you know, to a park with a picnic table with nobody around, or back to our hotel room maybe and eat it. We won't eat inside a restaurant. Movie theaters. Desperately miss going to the movies. And we're going to be making a couple follow-up videos at 3 months, 6 months, and a year after the April video. I'll put a link to it up here that we made about things we're looking forward to after the pandemic. We're going to be making some follow-up videos about that, so watch for those. Again, if you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so that you get a notification of all of my new videos. I definitely would really, really like to go to the movies, and Hollywood is supposed to start releasing new movies again in July, so very soon, and there's movies that I definitely want to see in the movie theater. I'm weird. I don't like watching movies at home. I just can't stand watching movies at home. I know like a whole bunch of people, they've taken surveys and other people are like, I'm only going to watch movies at home now. I'm going to just stream them and I'm never going to a movie theater again. But I am the total opposite. I only like watching movies at a movie theater. And then I may never see that movie again in my life. But I have, and I'm also known to go to a movie. If I really like it, I'll go to it in the movie theater. I've gone to movies 2, 3, 4 times because I like it so much in the movie theater. Here in our town, our movie theater is still closed because they're still remodeling and putting in the recliners. I talked about that in that video. So that's not open anyway because they're not done with that project yet. The two big, we have an AMC in the neighboring town and then the other branch of the movie theater that's in our town. No word yet when those are going to be open. The little budget theater in the next town, which the same people own as own the one in our town, has opened now. Opened like a week ago. It's like $3 for a movie. And they're showing like old movies. Forrest Gump, Midway, stuff like that. So, and they are social distancing. They are limiting how many people can go to the movie. And so I'm not going to be doing that because it's movies I've already seen and I'm not going to go to them again. I'm not going to risk my life to go see a movie I've already seen, years ago. I'm really debating if we will go to the movie theater when they open. I might give it a little while and see how it goes and see what other people say about how it goes and like, did they feel safe in that environment? We do have a drive-through movie theater about half an hour from our house. They do show newer films, so I am actually quite hopeful that they will get some of these new released films that are supposed to come out in like July and August and, going forward, and that we might go to the drive-through movie theater. Now, the one big disadvantage of that is drive-through movie theaters where we live are only open in the summer. So once we get into the cold weather months, if things haven't changed, we may have no other option than to go to a regular movie theater at that point. And I just hope that they would keep the limited stuff up. Being inside for an extended period of time is definitely greatly increases your risk. Airplanes is next. And I'm definitely not going to be going on an airplane. I won't go on an airplane until there's a vaccine or the virus is, somehow otherwise gone. So I won't be going on an airplane, I can tell you that. And then as far as transportation goes, from a safety perspective, they've pretty much ranked them. Airplane is the worst. Really close behind that is going to be any other kind of also enclosed with a lot of other people types of transportation. Trains, buses, subways, things like that. Don't want to be doing that. Also pretty dangerous. So, even if you're separated, you're still in a metal box basically with a whole bunch of other people. So probably not going to be doing any kind of public transportation like that. Then would be boats or ships. Cruise ships actually, probably significantly safer than airplanes. I would probably consider going on a cruise ship. I would like it if the cruise ships did require masks. And from what I'm hearing, they're probably not going to. But I still feel like you could adequately distance yourself from people on a cruise ship for the most part. And you have the opportunity to go outside in the fresh air. So that's a possibility. I might consider going on a cruise if this goes on a long time. And if cruises ever start back up again. Like a boat, I feel like, if you're on like a ferry boat and you can either stay in your car or go up on the top deck and stay away from people and be where the wind is blowing and things, I think that would probably be okay. And then the safest, obviously, is your own personal car. So, because, nobody else is you're not going to be letting other people into your car. You're not riding with people you don't know in your car. You can get in your car and stay in there. So that's probably the safest. Okay. Beaches are at about the same level as airplanes. Again, I think it's really going to depend on other people's behavior. And if you can stay socially distant from people, then I think beaches are fine. You're outside. Just stay away from people and you should be okay. And then eating outside at a restaurant is ranked at a risk level of 4. I would probably be okay with that as long as the tables are far enough apart and the waiter was masked. And hotels are a risk level 3. They put those at the same level as camping. So camping, hotels, and golfing are all at a risk level 3. So fairly low. So I think with a hotel, again, the main thing is just stay away from people. There's even hotels, you don't even have to go to the front desk at all. You can check in with, online, and then they have an app and your phone becomes your room key. So you don't even have to talk to anybody. Don't go to the free breakfast. They're changing a lot of the free breakfast to a grab and go thing anyway, so people aren't going to be gathering in that room. We'll probably, if we do stay in a hotel, we'll probably take some granola bars or stuff with us like we did on our last Disney trip and just eat them in our room. And if you avoid like the indoor pool, I think hotels are relatively safe. And I would probably also take some wipes with me. And even though, they tell you they already did it, you don't know for sure. And wipe down those high touch surface areas that, doorknobs, light switches, things like that. So that's about it. That's where I am at with travel. So I know that was a very long, complicated answer to that question of if the restrictions were taken away and everything opens back up, everything reopens, would I travel? Yes, but with a lot of special things about it. Does that make sense? So I'm curious how other people feel about this. Which things would you definitely not do? And which things would you like, yeah, maybe I'll do that? And which things would you be like, oh, sure, I don't have any problem with going there or doing that? So, I mean, because there's things like that for me. There's things like, I'm definitely not going to go on an airplane. I'm just not. But I'm totally fine with driving places in my car. I'm pretty fine with staying in a hotel. I'm pretty fine with eating outside. I'm pretty fine with walking on the beach as long as people stay away from me. And then there's things that I'm, iffy about, kind of want to see how it goes, but I might consider it, like going on a cruise ship or maybe going to an amusement park, although they're saying that that's pretty high risk. So, but I mean, it's a balancing thing. You have to weigh your risk aversion with, so it's definitely a personal choice for everyone. I'm curious to see what other people think. Thank you so much for joining me for this video today. If you haven't subscribed, one more reminder, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Thanks everyone, and safe travels.